growing enterprises. We are a Microsoft Gold partner in cloud platform, data analytics, and application development. Cloud9 Wednesday webinar series takes place alternate Wednesday from 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. CST. And today's topic is about Azure SQL Data Sync, and our speaker for the day is Santosh Reddy. This session will be recorded. Now Santosh will take over.
Thank you, Joshita, for the intro. Can you hear me right?
Yes.
Okay, and thank you everyone for joining today's webinar on Azure SQL Data Sync. My name is Santosh Reddy, and in this webinar we are going to discuss what is Azure SQL Data Sync, and we are going to take a look into the architecture of the Azure SQL Data Sync and some of the use cases of the Azure SQL Data Sync service, and also like how does Azure Data Sync work, and some of the requirements and limitations, and follow up with the demo. So before knowing what exactly is Azure SQL Data Sync, it is better to understand what and where and how this Azure SQL Data Sync service will be helpful in our business. So I just wanted to give you a small business use cases. So there are many obvious business cases for such a feature, like such as keeping our cloud database updated with the Office on-premise so that the field staff can take a view. And then there are many customers who are considering moving to the cloud and would like to put some of their applications in Azure. So it will be helpful for them if you keep your data synchronized between on-premise database and Azure SQL database. So, and there is another scenario like where if you have a large production database and also used to run a reporting or analytics workload on this data, it is helpful to have a second database for this additional workload. So this will minimizes the performance impact on your production workload. So if you use data sync service to keep this to database synchronized, it will minimize the production workload. So to jump, what exactly is Azure SQL Data Sync? Azure SQL Data Sync is a service built on the Azure SQL database that lets us synchronize the data we selected bidirectionally across multiple SQL databases and also the SQL Server instances. So basically, it allows us to keep on-premise database in sync with our Azure cloud databases. And Microsoft Data Sync service allows us to sync data like up to 50 other databases. Either it can be Azure database or on-premise database. So it is a very powerful tool. So, and to jump into the architecture of the SQL Data Sync, you will get a clear picture here. So the whole concept of the data sync is based around the concept of sync group. Basically, the sync group is a group of databases that we want to synchronize. And this sync group represents the properties like sync schema, where it represents which type of data is being synchronized among these databases, which are present in the sync group. And the sync direction, it defines the direction of the flow of the data sync, like in which direction it should flow. For example, from the hub to member, or from member to hub, or from both directions. So, and also there will be a sync interval, which we defines like how often the synchronization of the data should happen. And also there will be a conflict resolution policy where for the whole sync group, where we define a group level policy which defines like how hub wins or member wins. So if you take a look at the diagram, there is a hub database as well as the member database in the Azure as well as the member database in the on-premise. So all these three databases which we are going to be syncing should be placed in a single sync group. So we need to remember that. And that, and then the data sync service uses a hub and spoke topology model to synchronize the data. So we should define one of the database in the sync group as a hub database or a master database. So, and the rest of the other database will be a member databases. So one important thing to remember is the sync occurs only between the hub and the individual members. So, and the other thing is hub database must be an Azure SQL database. So here it says like we cannot able to sync between the two databases, but we can member databases, but we can sync only between the hub and the member database. And the other thing is the member database can be either SQL database or on-premise SQL Server databases or SQL Server instances on Azure virtual machines. And the sync database here, which contains the metadata and log for data sync. And the sync database has to be an Azure SQL database located in the same region where the hub database is located. So, so the Azure SQL data, so you can understand once we go through the demo later. And so next, if we go through the working of the data sync to know like how it works, there will be a tracking data changes where the data sync track changes using insert, delete, and update triggers. These changes are recorded in a table in the user database. So, and there is a synchronizing data where the data sync is designed in a hub and spoke model. The hub sync with each member individually, and changes from the hub are downloaded to the member, and then the changes from the member are uploaded to the hub. So, and the third one is resolving conflicts. So this data sync provides two options for conflict resolution policy, like hub wins or member win options. Like if you select hub wins, the changes in the hub wins overrides the changes in the member. And if you select the member wins, the changes in the member overrides the changes in the hub. So if there is a situation where more than one member are present, then the final value depends on which member sync first. So like that it works. So now when moving to some of the use cases of the Azure SQL data sync, we do have, like we already discussed some of the business cases of the data sync service, how it will be useful in our business cases scenarios. Like there will be a first hybrid data synchronization, which helps us to synchronize data between our on-premise database and Azure SQL database to enable the hybrid applications. This capability will be helpful to the customers who are considering moving to the cloud and would like to put some of their applications in Azure. So, and there is a distributed applications also. In many cases, like it will be beneficial to separate different workloads across different databases. So for example, if you have a large production database and you would like to run a reporting or analytics workload on this data, it's helpful to have a second database for this additional workload. So this approach minimizes the performance impact on your production workload. So so you can use the data sync to keep this database synchronized. And the other thing is the globally distributed applications as well, where many business span several regions and even several countries. So to minimize the network latency, it's best to have your data in a region closer to you. So with data sync, you can easily keep databases in regions around the world synchronized. So now when moving to the requirements and limitations, there are so many requirements as well as some limitations, like each table must have a primary key, and also you should, and table cannot have an identity column that is not a primary key. So, and also the names of the objects, databases like databases, tables, and columns cannot contain the printable character period, like on the left square bracket or right square bracket. So, and also the maximum number of the sync group any database can belongs to is 5. So, and the table limit and tables limit in the sync group must be like maximum number should be 500 and should not exceed that. And the columns limit in a table in a sync group is maximum is 1000. And data row size limit on the table is 24 MB. And the minimum sync interval should be 5 minutes. So we need to remember all these things when we are designing the database. So we can understand more clear when we jump into the demo. So let's take a look at the demo. So first we need to log in into our portal, Azure portal. And once we log into our Azure portal, so we need to select our SQL databases. I already have a SQL database in my portal. So once we click on the SQL database, and we do have an option down here where to select sync to other databases. So once we select the sync to other database, so here we need to define the sync group. So as I mentioned before, like we need to have all databases in the sync group. So whatever the data we are synchronizing between each databases, all the databases should be placed in a single sync group. So here we are going to create a new sync group. I'm just going to give a sync group name here, like sync DB, and I'm going to use the sync metadata database, like the current database, like sync DB hub, which I created. And I'm going to keep the automatic sync, and I'm going to give the frequency, like the interval time period, like, and the minimum, as I mentioned in the requirements, like it is mentioned that the minimum sync period should be minimum 5 minutes. So I have given the 5 minutes here. And here we do have a conflict resolution where we are giving the hub wins. So now we are creating the sync DB here. It will be ready within a few seconds. So as we discussed before, the data sync follows the hub and the spoke model. There will be a situation where accidentally we update the hub and the members at the same time. So at the situation, to avoid those resolving conflicts, data sync provides an option of conflict resolution. So like a hub wins or a member wins. So if you select the hub wins, the changes in the hub always overrides the changes in the member. So that is what we selected there in the hub resolution conflicts. So now it is done. The sync DB is created, and I'm going to give the username and password of my sync DB. So once we have given, so we need to add, and so right now in this demo, I'm going to synchronize my on-premise databases with my Azure Cloud database. So I'm going to select and add an on-premise database. So we need to add an on-premise database here. And once we click there, so it allows us to choose a sync agent gateway. So this sync agent gateway will helps us to synchronize the data between our on-premise as well as our Azure Cloud DB. So we need to create a new agent. So there will be a prerequisite for this, to sync our data between the on-premise and Azure Cloud. So first of all, we need to download our sync SQL Azure Data Sync agent onto our local machine. So we can download here. So once we download it, we can give the agent name, like I'm giving some C9 agent, and we are going to generate a key. So, and once we generate this key, and we are going to register this key in the sync agent that we downloaded in the on-premise database, on-premise, in our local machine. So the key is generated, and I'm going to copy this key, and so for sync agent, I'm going to open my sync agent, and then I'm going to submit my agent key that I copied from the Azure portal, and then I'm going to give my SyncDB credentials. So once we submit the key, you can see the register is enabled, the register option is enabled. So now we need to register the key here. So now I do have my local database here, so I'm going to register with my local database. So I'm going to sync the table call database call as syncdb, which I already created in my local database. So once we did that, you can see our syncdb is added here. So once we did that, now we can press OK, and then we need to select now the on-premise database will appear here. So we can give the sync as a member. So we are going to give the name for the on-premise database sync member. So like I'm going to give syncdb on-prem. So this is my local database, and so here the sync directions we can select it like the bidirectional sync or to the hub or from the hub. So we are going, once we select the sync directions, and we are going to select OK, and then we are going to add our on-premise database to our sync group, so that we should make sure all our database that we are going to sync should be in a single sync group. So in the meanwhile, once it is adding, so we're going to add it. So once it is added, we are going to configure our sync group. So in the sync group configuration, we are going to specify like which tables in the database we are going to keep sync with our Azure Cloud database. So this is so I'm going to select the on-prem database table. So these are the tables I do have in my database. So I'm going to select the student table and click save. So once it is done, and we also need to select our table in the Azure database. So this is my hub database, and we need to refresh the schema so that it will show the tables that I do have in my database. So in the meanwhile, I will log into my local database, and this is my on-prem local DB, and so these are my tables I do have in it, and here I'm going to select. So these are the two records that I do have in my table. So I'm going to sync with this with my Azure Cloud database. So it looks like the table and the database will have a lot of tables, so it will take some time to refresh and to load it. So just give a few seconds to load it. Yeah, here. So I already selected the student table here. So once we save it, it looks like the SyncDB is updated successfully. So you can see here it is updated successfully. So I'm going to sync and refresh it. So let me add a new record into this so that I can update, create a new query, and just so now go to the Azure portal and sync our DB here with Azure Cloud DB. You can see the code will be synced here. Just few more minutes. So eventually it will add here. So you can see here success. Once it there is some error it's showing, but eventually you can see success once it sync the DB with the Azure Cloud Database. So this is the overall configuration, like how you use the Azure SQL Data Sync service. So if you have any questions, please drop into the comment section, or else you can speak out. So I'm handing over to Joshita.
Yeah, hi everyone. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. Okay, seems like no questions for the day. So coming to our Azure assessments. Azure Assessment is a Microsoft and Cloud9 joint investment. There's a consulting service available for your organization, and depending upon your organization, it may be free, or you may use these consulting hours to get a roadmap to one of these services mentioned, like Azure Migration, SQL Upgrade, BI, and Analytics. And if you're interested, please email us at c9sales@cloud9infosystems.com or call us at 855-225-6839. And I request all the attendees to share their email addresses in the chat window so that we can share further communication about our upcoming webinars. And all our webinars, texts, and recordings are available on our Cloud9 website under the resource tab. Please visit our site, cloud9infosystems.com. Thank you, everyone. And thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in our next session. Have a great afternoon.